Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great, whatever day it is, morning. Guess it's Saturday, huh? I actually was sick last night, so that wasn't good. But I am seeming to feel better. I don't know if I ate something bad or what, but I was severely sick for a little while. It passed, so it wasn't. I mean, there's worse things. I guess we all get sick occasionally. Stomach sickness. I hope y'all are doing well. I just finished up making a cup of coffee and it is tasting great. We are lucky enough to have Ed on with us this morning, so that's pretty cool. Going to go over just a few things before that, but I'm excited to learn how to make some lanyards. And with Ed's touch, seems he knows what he's doing, so he's the guy to learn from. We will start out like we do always this time of the morning. Last weekend was not nearly as busy as the week, so I guess people sleep in. That's fine too. They can go back and watch it, learn something from Ed later. I don't blame them. If I was up late Friday night and didn't have a reason to get up at 8 a.m. Saturday morning, I wouldn't be doing it either. So if I wasn't already up, I would have never done any of these streams probably. That's why I scheduled it when I got off works, because I knew I would be awake for those few hours. I'd be awake for a few hours winding down anyway. So I thought, well, why not just talk about knives during that period? So I don't blame you if you're not here with us. I appreciate all the support during the week. We were getting 20 pretty regularly, and that's to me, that's impressive for a bunch of people, guys getting together and sitting around in the rocking chairs in front of the market. Like, you don't ever see 20 of them. That's pretty good. So I'm very happy with progress we've made. It started with 1 or 2, and we've got up to 20 pretty regular. So that's awesome. Anyway, enough talking. Good God, Chip. What I carried around last night was, surprisingly, the Caruso again. Yay. No, I'm starting to feel like there's something wrong with these bearings because of how soft they are. Like, I had to tighten the pivot because I was like, the pivot's got to be loose for how good this action is. And it wasn't. I was like, wow. So these bearings are really wearing in nicely, and I got that tuned properly. So that's what I carried. I'm really liking it. Something else laying here on the table. There's a couple of knives. This is what I keep in my car, tucked in beside the seat. And this is one of those good value Grow wide belly boys. It is actually a 2-inch. 2-inch was wide at the widest point. Super cool fixed blade. I believe it is N690. Is that right? Yeah. It's N690. Fred the Lug. Good morning, I am me. But yeah, this is a good road rage, keeping your car knife. Because break it out in a situation, well, I hope you never have to, but it's good to have in the car. I could chop into another car with it probably. Oh yeah, I love seeing those pictures, Drummer, of you out there fishing. Like, that looked like a great place to be. And then also on the table is this Gerber. I believe it's called the Dime. I got this free from somebody on a knife deal. Yeah, there's the name of it right there. In fact, this stays in the arm pull on your door in your car. That little slot, that little hole. This stays in there. So both of these are car knives, and they never make it in here to the house. So I thought I would bring them in and show them this morning. Next up, before we get Ed on, while a few more people join, is I got all 4 of the Lemifshi new versions of the Rosie in last night. I mean, not last night, yesterday in the mailbox. So I wanted to show them and go over a few measurements with them, including the weight and the thickness and all that, because they're a little different than the first version from Jufull. I left my calipers in here when I was putting together that watch, so hold on just a second. All right, yeah, I started. I busted out my digital microscope so I could see the watch movement better to start working on building that watch. And I shot a little bit of video for that. I've got actual video from the microscope and from me from the side watching me do the stuff. But I'm going to do that build in like a few steps and then edit the video together and make it a first edited video I've done. I don't need that yet, I guess. So let's start by busting a few of these out of here. I've got the XL in light and dark from these are Lemifshis. So these will go with the Lemifshis that I got yesterday. I've already made labels for the boxes for these Lemifshis. I got all 4 versions. Which I got all 4 versions of the original Jufull Rosie also, and I've got one of the plain Jane Rosies from the first run. I've got both the plain Jane ones from his first batch and the second batch from Jufull. These don't say Jufull on them, but they are. And the XLs are Lemifshi, and so are these 4 new ones. So, let's start with, I guess, we'll start looking at the new ones. This first one is the skeleton version that he came out with. And there's a good look at it. Doesn't bother me much, but he doesn't have, like Jufull, he doesn't have individual serial numbers because that would cost quite a bit more. So they've all got the same number according to which model they are, which is fine with me. I could care less about a number. But surprisingly, this one had the best action out of the box, out of all 4 versions, and it's the lightest version. And I'm wondering if because the lock bar is lighter, it's not able to provide the same pressure. But it definitely closes easier than all the other ones. They all make a good, satisfying noise when you open them, and the detent is better on these than on the Jufull ones. It's just got a little bit better feeling detent. The first version of Jufull Rosies, the detent was way off because the balls weren't lined up. They have to be at different depths, the double detent on the Rosie. The balls, the way they hit at different times when they're coming back onto the blade, they have to be at different heights for them to hit both at the same time. And I guess Jufull nailed that because the detent on them is great. Anyway, so there's the skeleton one. Next is the radial version, and he did a really nice job on the milling on the radial version. I really like the patterning. These are thicker and heavier than the Jufull ones also, and that's why I've got the scales and the calipers, because I want to check and see how different they are. But there's a good look at the radial one. Milling. Something else with the Jufull ones, they came with scratch blades, a lot of them did, and all these blades are pristine. There's no markings. Some people got ones. Quality control with Jufull is not the greatest, and some even had like snails on them and stuff when you bought them. So that's those 2. And then the other 2 that Lemifshi released are basically the same knife. And I don't know why I bought both of them. Just because, I guess. It's just a light and a dark version. So this is the dark version of the golf putter milling. A lot of people seem to like that golf putter milling. It's not milled on the clip, but like I said, these are thicker and it's quite a bit noticeable. You can definitely feel it in the hand. They feel really good. One thing I really like about these knives that I never really thought that I didn't think I would like this knife at all, just because it's a smaller knife, and if I was to try to hold it like a normal knife, I would only get 3 fingers on it and it would not be my choice. But the way they just continued it perfectly for that first finger to fit, it makes it a perfect 4-finger knife. And I really like the size of it, because the blade's a decent size, and now with this being part of the handle, it almost looks like part of the handle. They didn't do, I don't know, the look of it, I like it, and it's very comfortable. It drops like very securely in the hand, fits perfect right there. So anyway, there's the dark version of that one, and then the light version of that one. So golf putter with the light version. I will probably keep this light version and get rid of the dark version, or vice versa. I'll keep one of them and probably get rid of the other one, because they are basically the same knife. But let's compare that to the Jufull version. And one thing I'm kind of okay with is that Lemifshi didn't make a plain Jane version, because I've already got a couple of the plain Jane ones from Jufull. But let me see which one this is. Okay, this is the second batch plain Jane one, and then this other plain Jane one would be from the first batch. The reason I know that is because the number's lower on them. These are all individually numbered. Number on that last one was 660, and this is 115. But there's the 2 plain ones. Let me get a milled one. Let me get the radial one. So this one is a different radial pattern, but it's the blue pattern. And I'm curious at the weight. I'm not sure which one. Let's see. This is the regular radial. Here we go. Well, this one's different too. I'm glad Lemifshi did different ones instead of just copying. This one has a different pattern of the radial. It goes, this one's more like a sunburst kind of deal, and this one's more of a, but the blade grinds on them is different, the thicknesses is different, the detents tune better on the newer ones. But let's get a weight real quick. So since these two are the closest to each other, I'll do a weight difference on these two, and then I'll do the skeleton ones too, because they should be pretty close to the same thing. So here's the Jufull skeleton. That's all those right now. I've got the 2XLs. I'll bust them out here in a second. But all right, weight ounces. The old Jufull version looks like it is 3.17 ounces. And the new Lemifshi version is 3.85 ounces. So that is way more. 3.17 to 3.85. And you can tell this knife feels like a better, I don't know, it just doesn't feel, the lightness on those other ones kind of made them feel cheap a little bit. But it's very noticeable. It's crazy how 3/4 of an ounce makes a difference. But it's definitely 3/4 of an ounce heavier. 3.85, 3.17. On the Skellies, the original one was 2.63. And man, I didn't even put my earbud back in. My bad. It wouldn't have mattered. Nobody's talking to me, or we're not listening to anything anyway. But what did I say? 2.63? I can't even. Yeah, 2.63. And the new one from Lemifshi is 3.25. So 6.3 and 2.5, another 3/4, basically 3/4 of an ounce. Now let me do the measurements on the width real quick, because that's where the weight comes in. On the calipers here, get them zeroed out. Looks like they're good. So the radial original version, at the widest point of the scales, is going to be 0.4175. 4175. And the new one, I will put them side by side in a second so you can see the difference. 0.4970. 0.4970, so almost 0.5. And you can tell very easily the thickness difference. The one on the left is way thicker. You could actually see it better when I kind of put them apart a little bit. You can tell that the one on the left is way thicker. When I get them closer together, it's less noticeable, but right there in the camera, I can see it, so I'm sure y'all can see it. Once again, the original Jufull is 0.4145, and the Lemifshi is 0.4920. So quite a bit thicker, better detent, more weight. That golf putter pattern that people seem to like. And the Skelly, like I said, came with the best action. It closes. They all close fine, but you do have to shake that dark one a little more. Let's see. The light one too, you have to shake it a little more. Light, dark. What am I missing? Light, dark, radial. Yeah, that's it. These Jufull ones, the detent, I don't know. I'm liking the Lemifshis better. I may be partial because Jufull is an asshole too. So that kind of goes into my thinking a little bit. These are the XLs. So Lemifshi only made, they don't have very many versions of the XL yet. So this is the milled version. He made a light and a dark version of it. And it really is a knife where the XL means something. You can see the difference between those two knives. But I got the light and the dark version. But you can see from the plain Jane quite a bit of difference. And when you hold one, I can get 4 fingers on either side of it. So if I got 4 fingers on just the scale part, then I still got knife sticking out the end. And if I put 4 fingers up here, I feel like I'm in the middle of the knife. Like, you can really choke up on it, get busy. So the XLs are more my size for sure. But anyway, I guess that's about it as far as going over the Rosies. Now we get to learn how to make lanyards from Edyard, or Edyards from Edyard. I think Ed might still have his mic muted, but he can fix that shortly. Let me bring his screen up. He is on screen now.
I can fix that right now.
Yep. All right. So now we got your audio. And I'm just going to hand it over to you, man. Like, show us what your thought process is behind making lanyards and how you match them and all that stuff.
Well, matching them is typically whatever my brain comes up with whatever knife I'm putting it on. But usually, most knives, I'll usually have a pretty decent idea of what I'm going to do even before I buy the knife. Like once I see a knife, I know what I want to put on it. Um, Obviously, knives like the Fenrir, because the Fenrir is a wolf, it would get. I don't know if you guys can see close enough the little wolf tips on there. The other
Yep.
Fenrir I had a wolf's head bead on it, like this one. So those are pretty easy. The Spartan Plague Doctor obviously gets Plague Doctor.
I didn't even know you could buy just specialized stuff like that. It's crazy.
Oh, God. You can get beads anywhere. You get them on Amazon. You get them on Etsy. The problem with beads is everybody wants to get Met and Boss and, all these expensive titanium ones and gold and whatever. No bead is worth more than 10 or 15 or 20 bucks.
Right.
They're not worth it. You can go on AliExpress and you can get beads until you're dead, and you can pay $1 a piece for them.
Yeah. So, is the length of them according to the knife too? Do you try to match them up, like make them as long as the knife scale, or just kind of whatever you want to add to it?
I've got. I might have made it shorter now, but the one on the McBee was like twice the length of the McBee.
Okay.
The one on the Striga is longer. The size of the knife really doesn't matter. It just depends on, while I'm making it, what I want to put on it, and size wise, like the McBee, it's twice the size of the knife.
Right. I like how you got kind of a chunky knife with a little chunky bead. Yeah, that's cool. Man, it just amazes me how many different areas of knife specialty, like all these guys can just, these cool graphic designers can do all kinds of stuff with beads. Like, there's just so many different aspects. Crazy.
I mean, however they're making them, if they're cast or whatnot, all they have to do is make the molds, and making the molds is probably super easy.
Right.
But there's, like I say, you can get, I was getting beads from Etsy and Amazon, paying $10, $12 a piece, $15 a piece, and finally realized that AliExpress had beads, and they're like 99 cents, $1, $2. So I've been buying them because they're exactly the same quality as anything else.
Right.
And that's probably where everybody else is getting them from too.
Yeah, no doubt. We got some crazy weather here, so if you hear some thunder in the background, it's just outside. I got the window open because it feels so good, but
yeah, our power went out a little bit last night, overnight, and I thought, crap, if the power don't come on, we ain't gonna be able to do this.
Right. We were supposed to have tornadoes and stuff, but we didn't get them. So yeah.
Good luck with that.
All right. Well, I'm gonna mute my mic for a minute and just let you take over and make some and show us what you do.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna show a couple of different knots, really easy knots to do.
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna grab some beads and show like placement and stuff. The lanyards that are here, I'm gonna show you too, like how they're laid out and everything. But it's all basically the same.
Well, I'm gonna mute my mic and just hand it over to you.
Cool beans. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully I won't destroy your brain cells by teaching you how to make lanyards. Like I say, basically, I'll just start showing a couple of the really simple knots. They're super easy to make. And there's tons of videos on YouTube that you can watch to make different lanyards and different loops and knots and stuff. Most of the time, I just do a couple of the same only because they're quick. And I originally started doing this because it was a way to help with ADD. So I started making keychains and stuff, and just somehow spiraled into this obsession that you guys know I love. But first thing, any knife can get a lanyard on it. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's got a lanyard hole, you can tie it to the knife. The only thing that sucks about that is if you want to take it off, you either got to untie it or you got to cut it. There's no way to take it off otherwise. If you got barrel spacers, you can tie it to the barrel spacer. And once you have your spacing, you can either disassemble a knife and take it off the barrel spacer so you don't have to cut it, you don't have to untie it, or you cut it or untie it. Obviously, there's the ones that you could just loop in. That depends on how big the hole is. Same with this, where it's tied to the knife. If you want to take it off, you either got to cut it or you got to untie it. As far as beads go, that's usually preference. Like I said, sometimes I know what's going to go on a knife. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I change them out. The as many knives as I've had here, most of them have probably had at least one or two different lanyards on them. But bead choice is also a thing of, same as buying a knife. You're going to see a bead and you go, wow, that's cool. And even if you don't put it on a knife, put it on a keychain, put it on a tool pouch, your EDC pouch, something like that. It's not just for knives. I've got lanyards and keychains and stuff on everything here. This is my key for work. Is for our automation system. And that's basically a bracelet buckle that I just put the cord on with another bead. And it has my OSR key. My trophy for work. Yeah, Freddie, that's your now mine. You can't have it back, sorry. Whoop, uh-oh. The knife doesn't open if you hit the table. Anyhow, as far as knots go, this one's probably the easiest. And different people will show you different ways. They'll show you with the loop up, how to tie it. I always do it with the loop down. Two reasons is because it's super easy to tie it, and it allows you to move the knot up and down easier. So basically, I just have a piece of paracord with a loop. You're going to take one side and you're going to loop it around. It's like I take the left side, loop it around the right side and under. Then the right side, you're going to go under that, and you're going to go through this hole. And then when you cinch it up, that's the knot you get. And it's basically like a shoestring knot, cobra knot. It's one of the most popular. And like I say, I can take and use my hand either direction, push in, and use these fingers to pull it down. Gives me my length, whatever length I want. And the length is always decided by the knife. So knives that don't have lanyard pins, lanyard holes, things like that, you can put it on the clip. And most of the time, what you want to do is adjust your loop. So you're not going to put a super long loop on there because it's going to hang way down. And typically I'll have another bead here. Like I'll have one of these here. So it takes up the space of the loop. And really, with that being on the clip, when it's in your pocket, it actually makes it hang better than if it's in a pin or a loop or if it's tied to the knife, because then you have the bend of the paracord. That's why you always take the pass through pass it through the show side first. So that makes this part of the paracord lay flat. So it lays flat against your pocket. But this...
Wait, say that one more time. So when you feed the lanyard in, you feed it in from the show side.
Yeah, so you always want to feed it in through the show side, the ones that are pass through.
Yep.
And the reason for that
is because the knot wraps around to the other side and lays with the clip, or lays on the clip side.
So what it'll do, if you see how the loop is.
Yep.
When it's tight, it lays flat.
Yep.
So it'll lay flat up against your pocket.
Yep.
If it's on the other side, that loop makes it stick out.
Right. Okay. I mean, there's something so simple as that I don't know about lanyards.
Yeah.
That, you know.
Oh yeah, always through the show side. Other knives, you're kind of stuck with how they lay. So, like for the fender, where it's in, it has to be tied to the knife because that hole is too small. Paracord to do a pass through, you have to have a 4mm hole. So both parts.
Okay. They won't go through to push together. They won't go through. What size paracord do you use?
Just regular standard 550.
Okay.
And I may have misspoke. This might be
5mm.
6 mil.
Yeah.
It's either 6 mil or 8 mil. I can measure it. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think these littler ones are the 4 mil. Yeah.
So if the lanyard hole in the knife is smaller than that, then you have to do it where you attach it permanently.
So it depends on the hole. If it's like, depending on the cord, if it's true 550 and it has that one strand in the cord, it's a little bit more solid, you can't do it. But with 550 that you would get from like Home Depot, stuff like that, it's not really true 550 cord. What you can do is you can take one of the strands out of the core and you'll loop it into the paracord loop, into your lanyard loop, and you can use that to pull through. It gives you a grip and you can yank it through. Some of the smaller holes, depending on how small they are, you can do that. Some of them it's just not going to work. The only way you could do it is to take the core out of the paracord and make, so you would take the white, give me a second, let me grab another piece of cord.
You're cool.
So what you would do is you would take a piece of paracord and you would make a core out of that. So you're making a core out of the outer sleeve. You would just take the core out, all the white. Now that's going to be super thin, so that'll go through a smaller hole. You would just use this as a core and tie your lanyard around that. And it would be the same basic knots. The only difference would be it would end up being snake knot, which is a little bit wider than the standard Cobra knot.
All right.
But it still looks good depending on how you weave it. Like the difference between this, how wide it is because it's on a core, is the difference between how thin that is because it's not on a core. So it's twice the size.
Right.
But it doesn't, that in your hand or hanging on a knife or hanging on a keychain, it's not.
And while I'm thinking about it, I know there's a couple of really good YouTube channels for learning how to tie knots with paracord. What are those something?
There's Paracord Planet, there's Weavers of Eternity. There's tons of them.
Okay.
There's a guy I found on there too that's more of a knife channel, I think, but he does he'll do paracord lanyards. I watched a couple of his videos, and he does pretty good too. But then, like I say, if you have a knife where the hole is a little bit small, and the doubled up paracord won't fit through, if you, and yeah, I got to use a longer piece too, but if you take the core out, what that'll do is you'll feed that through the hole, and it gives you a pull that you can yank the paracord through.
But
So smaller holes.
I'm confused at how. So, are you going to leave that piece without the middle in it in the knife, or are you going to? Is it going to still be attached to more paracord?
So here's what I'm saying. If the Fenrir,
Yeah.
if I wanted to do a pass through instead of tying it to it,
Right.
because the hole is so small,
Yeah.
it won't go through with intact paracord.
Yeah, yeah, I got all that, but how do you have the regular paracord attached to that piece you got in your hand?
So I cut this really short, but if you were using it as a core, you would make it long enough that you would tie. Give me 2 seconds.
Can you take the middle out of a section of it and still leave the middle in the rest of it?
So you can split it. It's really hard to do. I've done it. It's hard to do. You have to know what you're doing because you have to cut internally, so you can't cut the outer shell.
Okay.
It's really hard.
So the whole piece you would be using would be coreless.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that you wouldn't notice it, and you wouldn't have to worry about it getting damaged or anything like that because it's still pretty strong, and you're not climbing with it. You're not choking people with it. It's just hanging off your knife. It ain't gonna hurt nothing.
Right. Yeah, that's where I was confused. I mean, I understood you're talking about making it narrow. You know, there's no inside, so you can smush it through the hole, and you can use something to pull it through. But I was confused at how you made the rest of the paracord off of it. I didn't know if you used the same coreless.
Yeah, you would just do the same thing. Where if you had the core out of there and it was thinner, you would just make your knots on that.
Okay.
And they would wrap around and tighten up to it.
All right, well, I'm going to mute my mic again and let you actually make one.
Yeah, so like I say, depending on, like if this was going to be a pass-through for like the Padre or the Spartan or whatever, that's how long you would make that loop so it hangs good. And I'll just leave it that size. And depending on how long you want it, you always want to keep in mind how many knots you're going to make. You typically, it's not a hardcore rule, but for aesthetics, you always want odd numbers. For some reason, the human brain likes odd numbers, not even numbers. I think it has to do with the whole universe is chaos thing. But like I say, this knot, I basically have a left and a right. I'm going to take the left and wrap it around the right. Then the right will go behind the left and through the hole. And this is the other reason why a lot of the paracord guys, they'll use jigs and stuff. I don't. I do it with my hands because it's I can do it super fast. But I just always left over and behind the right, and then the right behind and through the left. And I cinch it down. And it's one of the reasons, another reason why I think my lanyards look a little bit better than most people is because I make sure that everything is tight so it won't come apart. So let's say I was going to put a bead on here. What I would do is I would do either 3 or 5. It's my typical thing to do 3 or 5 knots. And this one I'm doing super quick, so if it doesn't look perfect when it comes out, that's fine. Then I would put the bead on. Then after that, depending on how long I'd want it, I'd do probably 2 knots here. Or okay, let's say if I just wanted that to be the end. Since that opening is so big, I would take a little clip of the paracord and make a knot around the cord and shove it in there. Then I would cut this off, burn it, and smash it down in there so that the bead wouldn't come off. Trying to think of what I have that would look I like this one. So basically, I just cut the ends off. I burn that, and then I smash it down. That way, the bead can't come out. And typically, if you have something that has knurling on it, like a flashlight or something, I use the knotter tool. The knurling will help hide the burn. You won't see it as much as if you just burned it straight. Like if you burn it straight, you're going to see like the black and the white and stuff like that. But if you use a knotter tool, it kind of hides it better. Or anything with knurling on it, the side of a flashlight or whatever. But for this one, like if I was going to make this one for a knife, I would probably put 2 more knots, and I would throw one of the center beads in. So I would throw one of these on. And if I do that, it's basically going to come out. It would look like this. That's a different knot, but it would still, I would have a runner on the top and then the bead and then the other one on there, like this one. And that's what those knots would look like. After that, I just finish it however my brain tells me I want to finish it. I'll put 1 or 2 runner beads on the end, or I'll put I lost. Oh, look ahead. Or I'll put the tips, the bolo tips on.
How do you put those on?
Just crimp.
Crimp?
So those just crimp. They have just a hole in there. So what you'll do is you'll burn the end of the cord.
Those things you call runner on the end, are they half the size of the big ones? So they go on just single strings and you flatten the end of it when you melt it so they don't slide off. Like I saw that too. Yeah. On that one.
And I'll show you too. I'll show you with the one I'm making. I'll show you.
All right.
You basically burn the end and either just take like I say, I take the knotter tool and I'll just press it so it's spread out and flat. That way the bead won't come off.
Okay.
Or you can even take the bead and run it up and press it into the bead so it flattens out on it.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. And do you just use like a little torch or a lighter? I mean, lighter is going to leave black. Yeah. So you use a torch so you don't leave residue, right?
Yeah. And the reason why I use these is because it's such a tight direct flame. I can get my fingers really close to the end and I won't burn my fingers.
Okay.
I burn my fingers anyway because I use them to smooth out the ends sometimes, and this is the other one I use. This one's a little bit stronger, so this is really the one I use for like flame anodizing stuff.
Right.
But I'll use it every now and then for paracord too. But if I was going to take either this bead,
I think it's funny though that you said you do 2 knots after it. So, but you said you always do groups of 3 and 5. But the 3 on one side and 2 on the other makes a 5. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and that's the other weird thing too is your brain wouldn't notice it unless somebody told you.
Yeah,
like you never count the knots.
No, you're supposed to like hang pictures in groups of 3s or 5s, or 3s or 5s are supposed to look better than 2 because you can get some dimension. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that because my first ex-wife, her parents were landscape architects.
Yep.
And they would do, multi-million-dollar landscapes.
Yeah.
And they always did everything they planted in odd numbers.
3s and 5. Yeah, yeah. In fact, I got some landscape plans from a guy, and I noticed that they would never just put 2 because it always makes some kind of cool looking triangle if you put 3 or 5 or
Yep. It's all about the placing and how your mind interprets like what you're seeing.
Yep.
But if I was gonna terminate that with the bead on it, what I would do, like I say, I would just melt that. And I would run the bead up and just press the knotter tool into the end. So
Okay.
that knurling, now that's not going to come out.
Yeah. All right. That's super cool.
And that works for, and any termination that works. You do the same thing. So if you were going to terminate it with a bigger bead at the end, you do the same thing. You take the two strands, you even them out, you melt them, you press the tool into it.
Now,
Same
what
thing
if
with
is there ever an occasion where you don't want that nub at the end? Is there a trick that you use to get the end of it where it's just like a spot like comes to a rounded tip instead of that wider tip at the end of the paracord? Or do you always put
yeah.
that?
No, if you were going to do that, the way that you would melt it, you would just try to make sure
Just roll it
that you
between
were
your
even.
fingers?
Yeah, usually I'll just lick my fingers and then twirl it.
Yeah.
And if it winds up like the end of this one where it's got the extra, I just take the scissors and clip it off.
Okay. Yeah.
And usually something like that, you're not like shoving your eyeball on it, scrutinizing it. If it's hanging on your knife or on a keychain or something like that, you'll never pay attention to that.
Yeah, I watched a few of those paracord channels for a few videos and got into them and made a few of those bracelets and stuff and made some pretty cool knots. Like you can make the two different colors and blah blah. But they got some crazy knots. There's some wild stuff.
And if you're gonna join two different colors, there's a method to do it called the Manny method, and that's the best way to do it because it's the strongest. Typically, what people will do is they'll recommend melting the two different ends, melting the colors, and then just pushing them together so it welds. But that can break.
Drummer just asked how you can flatten it without that tool, and you can just grab anything with knurls on it or the side of a pair of pliers or anything to press against it. He just happens to have, anything with some kind of texture will just add a little bit of texture on the end.
Yeah. So this is the actual knotter tool. It has the Marline spike to undo knots, and it's got what's called fids on the inside, and they're basically like little knitting needles. They have threaded holes in them, so you can take paracord
and pull it through stuff,
melt it, and and that's how the guys will do the intricate weaves with the microcord and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't typically do that sort of thing. It's cool, but I'm not. But
you could literally press anything against it, just like a knife, or you can use anything, a butter knife, or.
Yeah, you can use anything, and really, if you're bold enough, you could just lick your thumb and put your thumb on it. The only thing with the knotter tool or anything with knurling on it, like I say, it kind of helps make that end look better. The knurling kind of hides the burn. But every once in a while, where I have my knotter tool sitting, I'll knock it off onto the floor, and I don't want to bend over to grab it. So I just grab the flashlight because it's got knurling on it, and I'll use that.
Okay.
It's just like the pattern of the knurling just hides the burn a little bit better.
Yeah, and it kind of it melts it to where there's like different layers to the melt, so it doesn't look like a flat, shiny. Like it gives it some texture too, I'm sure.
It's the texture and most of the time it comes out looking all right. Every once in a while you get a certain type of cord that just wants to be stubborn, but if you see here, I don't know how good the phone is going to pick it up, but you'll see there's like the knurling marks in there. So it kind of gives it a little bit of a finish look.
Yeah, that's super cool. Let me see. So you can add, and you don't put I guess it's just up to you what you want to add to it, huh?
Oh, you can just make it plain. You could, like on my knotter tool, it's just plain cord.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you're doing. I've got, you don't even want to know how many keychains and lanyards and stuff I have sitting here that haven't even been used yet. I probably got 285 knives or so here that all have lanyards on them, and I've got a box over there that's got lanyards and stuff in it. I probably got about 500 lanyards sitting here.
Wow.
like I say, I started doing it, and I don't know what made me think of doing it, but I started doing it to help with ADD, and it actually does work pretty good because you kind of get a little mindless when you're doing it. The problem is you get to the point where you do like 5 or 6 at a time, and you wind up with a box with 100 of them in there. So I usually just I'll take and throw a bunch of them in a Ziploc bag and take them to work and give them away.
Yeah, I was going to ask if everybody in your family has multiple keychains, gifts from you.
Pretty much anybody that I can have hand-to-hand contact, not combat. I misspoke. Contact.
Yeah.
If I can shake your hand, I'm putting a lanyard in it.
Right.
I'm kind of crazy like that.
No, that's awesome. Like having some, it's like your calling card. Like,
yeah, it's a good way to drive people crazy that don't like lanyards too. I'll just show them my knife shelves and they go crazy. Oh my God, you got so many lanyards.
Yeah, the first time when you popped on video and I was like, is there really one on every single knife on that shelf? Like,
there's a few that don't, but most of them here, I think the last time I counted, I think there's 281 that have, well, no. Now there's 283 because of the 2 Rosies. 284 because of the truffles.
Let me see the truffles.
The number keeps going up. Oh, you want to see it?
Yeah. Oh, nice. How does the lock feel? Does it feel good or?
It's good. I like it. This thing, you can fidget it for 10 minutes and forget you're fidgeting with it.
Do you have an Ankilo or whatever?
No.
Okay.
I have RS Chaos, the clone.
Oh yeah, that's the one I showed last week that I almost bought for $30. Is yours the steel one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the steel one.
Yeah, it's super heavy, huh?
And then the Tri-Stash, that is a button actuated frame lock.
Yeah, I almost got one of those, but I just couldn't. I wanted to wait till the price came down a little bit on the secondary market.
Well, he's got budget versions.
I don't want a budget version. I just want the other one at the budget version price.
Well, you can't have this one. This one's never leaving my possession.
Yeah, I've almost bought a couple on Knife Swap, but like I said, they were a little more than I wanted to pay.
The good thing about this is the frame lock. You can operate it just like a frame lock.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a button actuated.
Is it a button actuated frame lock?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I never really got into it. I thought it was a liner lock. All right. Well, that's awesome.
And I find myself, depending on how I deploy it, like that, when I do the thumb flip, I always go to the frame lock. If I reverse flick it, I always go to the button because that's like where your thumb is positioned. Right. Is perfect to land on the spot to do it.
Right. You think he'll come out with another batch of them?
Well, he did come out with the budget ones. I think those are sold out. And he said he's going to keep making them until people don't want them anymore.
Yeah, so he might do a different pattern or something. That'd be cool. Oh yeah, is that like a hooded like Assassin's Creed looking character?
Yeah, I got a bunch of these because I love them. They look really cool.
Yeah, it does look cool. Have you figured out how to put a skull up inside one of them?
I thought about it, but to get it in, like the smallest skulls I have, they won't fit on the paracord. The hole is way too tiny.
Okay.
Like these runner beads, the different sizes. So that one, the smaller one, you can't get 2 pieces of cord in there no matter what you do. And the really small ones, for me to get that onto the cord, I have to take the core out and make that as thin as possible and pull that in with the pliers.
Oh, okay. So only the end of it has the core missing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about at the other end. Like, I thought you might could pull the core out enough to pull it through. And I guess you could if you made a little incision and then snipped it, like snipped inside the layers, but it would leave a mark probably.
And that's what I say. That's what's hard about it. If I do a bead like that where I have to take the core out, or if I have to make the loop thinner by taking the core out, I have to use a scalpel and a needle to pull apart the strands.
Right, to get in there to snip it, yeah.
Yep, and then I have to work the shell back to get it to where the little bit I want to take the core out of, I can get the core out of.
Yep.
And still leave the rest solid.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would have tried to cut it on both sides and just instead of just pulling it apart. Like, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just making one snip in it and just slide the outside layer kind of around it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you have to cut it in the middle. You can't pull from the end because then you're pulling it straight through.
Yeah, it's kind of like when your string comes out of your shorts and you have to like feed it back through there. You know, like by using a needle or push it or whatever.
Yep. Stuff like that. I'll usually use a coat hanger, a wire coat hanger, and bend it and then shove it in there. So it's like hoodie strings and stuff like that. It's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of more questions. People, somebody in the comments has probably got a question. Y'all ask something like while we got him here. I'm trying to think of stuff that you might run across. Like, and do you buy your paracord just off Amazon, or you get it from AliExpress too?
No, I get it from anywhere. Amazon. I'll get it directly. So Paracord Planet, they're on Amazon now, so I'll just get it from them. But I was getting it from their website too.
All right. And of course they make multicolored, like speckled, like some of that in the back there, that red and gray. I guess is that like an orange and gray or striped or they make all kinds of patterns now. If you
go on Paracord Planet's website, they have a color chart, and pretty much any color that your brain could ever come up with, they have.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how big that thing's gotten. It's all these high school, or elementary kids making all those bracelets is what started it, like the big craze. But there's some crazy big YouTube channels with those guys making crazy stuff. Like, I think Fuchs said he got some kind of fist or something.
The monkey fist. Yeah, I was just reading that. I have a couple here. I don't mind making them. They're kind of a pain in the ass if you do them freehand. I have a jig that I use, but they're cool. I just don't. I don't like the way that they're. Everybody wants to use them to hit people over the head with. I don't like that.
Fuchs. Well, Drummer said, "What kind of knot is on the green lanyard?" And I don't know. I don't see a knot on that green piece of cord, but
on this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if it's this one, give me a second. I will tell you exactly what it is because I want to show you that knot too.
And Fuchs asked what the most complex paracord item you've created is.
Oh God, I gave somebody a monkey fist that was the monkey fist, which is a pain in the butt. I mean, it's easy to do, but I'm trying to see. Give me 1 second. So I had a monkey fist. I don't remember what the name of this knot is. Box something.
Yeah,
but I had a monkey fist that had the cobra knot up to it, and then a fairly long piece of with that type of knot because it was a good handle, and then finished it off just with the basic knot and. I can't remember what bead I used on the end, but it was a pretty beefy one. It might have been the Predator one. I don't remember.
Drummer said he was talking about the knife on the bottom right. I guess that looks kind of green color. The Voodoo.
The Voodoo?
Yeah, I think he thinks that's green. I don't know what. I thought those are the same knots.
Yeah, it's the same. The Cobra knot, just the single strands Cobra knot.
So that's you go under. You take the left one over and back
Yeah,
under the right one, and then you go
I'm gonna. Yeah,
under.
I'll
You go
show it again.
you go under the left one with the right one and back through the hole. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show it again. That one, like I say, even when I'm trying to teach people, I go kind of fast, so I speed up. It's so it's so easy for me to do. But and then, like I say, you can do from the loop side down. I'm so used to doing it from the loop side up because if I'm doing it on a knife that I have to tie it on, I'm just used to having that end with the knife in my hand and tying it like that.
Right.
But if you have, and you can do it right-handed or left-handed. But like I say, if you have the left and the right, you're basically just
over
taking the left over, and the knot is going to be twisted like this. So it's not going to be up. You're going to twist it down. So you're making a loop.
Right.
Then that right hand cord where the left hand one is looped out, you're going to take that one and go behind it.
And back through the hole. Yep.
And just through the hole. And the only thing there is to pull it even so you get the knot. If you pull it and it's crooked, just push it, loosen it up, and pull whichever side needs to get evened out.
Right. And you can make a whole line of those as long as you want to make, and they'll all line up correctly.
I've made dog leashes like that and dog collars. You can make that until you run out of paracord.
I'm trying to think. I made a couple things. I don't even know where they're at. Like, I can't even think, but I think that's one of the ones I used.
Yeah. This is one of the most basic, most common.
And then there was one where it went back and forth, like they flipped. They were
so that's the other one that's pretty common. And what you'll do is you'll start with a core. So you'll have a core, and you'll take another strand of paracord, and you're basically. I always start behind. So if I had two loops of paracord, one's behind the other one. And all you're basically doing is just tying it to itself. So you're going to go behind the one cord, around the front, and through the loop. Then what you're going to do is where your original loop was, you're going to do the opposite side. And like I say, I always go behind. So there's my loop. I'm going behind. This strand on this side, I'm going through the loop. And then you cinch it up. And this one, like I say, it's super easy. It's super fast.
So I got a question. Is this look at the screen, is this one of your snake is that snake knot back and forth, or is that something else that I've done there? I think I don't know what I did, but that was one of those videos I watched where I made one of those bracelets. I made this to take camping and just to have some extra paracord, and like I made sure it fit my actual wrist, but okay. And then the only other thing I've done is I learned how to wrap Mora sheaths, where you wrap it around the knife and then you pull it back through all the way through to the other end. That was something else that was cool, to have an extra bit of paracord with you without having to take up much space.
Doing for like knife blank handles and things like that, take the knife away and it's exactly the same kind of knots you're making the lanyards out of. It's just being wrapped around a flat piece of metal.
Yeah.
All of the knots are all the same. They're, you know, it just depends on what you're wrapping them around.
You're not hearing Ed at all help with gadgets? You should be.
Yeah, my volume's on.
Yeah, he says he is now. I don't know. I didn't really change anything, I don't think. Keep on talking for a minute, though.
I hit the mic, but it's working.
Keep on telling us a little bit more info for just a minute, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. But the other knot, what I'm going to show is this one. I call it a Celtic knot. I don't know what the hell they call it. But that one's really cool. And this is usually the pattern that I'll use for that one. Is I'll do the runner bead. I'll do the knot. I'll do another bead. And like I say, always odd numbers, so there's always 3. And this one and that Cobra knot are probably the 2 that I make the most. Only because usually I'm just, you know, I get a knife in and I just want to put a lanyard on it really quick, so that's what I do. But that knot, that one's a little bit more difficult, but once you get used to it, it's super easy. You know, just like anything else, it just takes practice. But that one, if you have a loop, I put it on my finger. You got a right and a left. So this one, what you're going to do is you're going to make a loop. So I have a loop, but I'm going to flip it over. So, and it's probably hard for you guys to see because I usually do it on my thumb. I make the loop. And if I take it apart, that's basically, it's just a loop. But what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over. So this strand that would be on the left is going to go under this one. And you're going to do an over under. So where this, the left hand one is, you're going to go over this, under this, over it. So I'm behind that one. I am going to go over this one, under that one, over, under, over. I'm going to pull that through. I'm going to have roughly, which kind of looks like a figure 8. I'm going to take that same strand, same one, behind that one again, and through that figure 8. And it's just going to come straight through. This one, it's going to basically go around and in from the backside through here, through that same hole in the figure 8 that this one went through. And I'll do this a couple of times so you guys can see. But I'm going to pass it through. Then all you do after that is just pull it to cinch it up. And this is one of the reasons why my knots are as good as they are. Like the Cobra knot, I always cinch it in a way where the knots are going to be almost completely identical in size, and they're going to be tied up against each other where there's no gaps. This knot, what I do is I use a pair of micro pliers, needle nose pliers, and I tighten the strands with it. And what that allows me to do is I can make that loop as long or as short as I want, and I can tighten the knot. And the reason why I use the pliers is because my arthritis, there's no way I'd be able to grab these strands like that. But I'll tighten that. And I've been making these so long, I know which strand is which. But when you guys, if you guys start to make them, you'll get used to it too.
Right.
But I'll do that.
That's one of those knots where I had to like physically have the string in hand and pause the video and rewind like 10 times to make sure I was.
Yeah, the first time I started doing it, I did the same thing, and I think it was weavers, and I've got it on my hand just with the strands, and I had to stop that part like 4 times. Like, what's he doing? I'm missing something. It ain't coming out right. It took me forever. It took me forever to finally get down to the point where each strand would go. I finally got it down all the way.
Yeah, there's some cool like animations too on how to tie knots on some of those knot pages where they show you like an animation that kind of goes slow and it shows you which side to go under and over
and there's sites online that have pictures with the knots, but the pictures you'll drive yourself nuts trying to figure out which picture is which and where the cord's going, and if it was the left one or the right one. Those drove me nuts. I had to stop watching those. I just go to the videos. But then, like I say, so that I would do the runner bead, so that would go between the knot and the knife. Then I would put a bead, and I'd do another one of these. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a bunch of these so you guys can see, and hopefully the repetitiveness you'll be able to see. Like I say, you basically got a left and a right. This one, if I make a loop, that's fine. But I'm going to flip it over. So, like I say, I go around my thumb. It might be easier for you guys if you're going to do it to do it like that, because then you'll see as you're flipping it, you'll see how it goes. But you make a loop, flip it over.
Yeah, so when you pull it off your thumb, you flip it over.
Yep.
And you went on the outside of your thumb instead of the inside.
From heel down, from heel around.
If you did it the other way, would it come out where you didn't have to flip it? No, you wouldn't make a knot, huh? I mean, you wouldn't make a circle.
No, because that's going to put that cord on the wrong side.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, when I'm doing it, because I'm so used to doing it, I probably do it super fast and don't realize until I actually have to stop myself.
Break it down. Yeah.
To see what I'm doing. But like I say, it's always from heel around. And you see how that knot lays. That's on the top. It has to be on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you have to maintain where it's going that direction. So you flip it over.
Okay. And this is either the snake or the cobra, one of the two, right?
No, this is the one. Like I say, this one I call it a Celtic knot. I don't know what the name. I would have to look it up, but it's basically just the one that comes out looking like a ball.
Okay. I've got one I want to ask you about here in a second that I don't know.
No, go ahead.
No, I've got. Well, okay. I guess I did a little more paracord work than I thought I did, because I just went and looked and found a few. But right here, here in a second you'll be able to see. But on the end of my Mora neck knife, I put some kind of little round knot, and it might be the same one again.
It could be.
But I don't know why it turned out so round compared. This one is definitely flatter. Like there's a top and a bottom, it feels like. Whereas this one is a little bit different. And I was wondering if you knew what that was.
So, give me a second. Let me look at the screen.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see.
Just take your hold it. Just hold it in two fingers and hold it up to the camera so I can see the whole weave.
Yeah, I've got it. Somehow the end is different too.
It's the same. It's the same knot. You
But
say
it's
it came out rounder. It's not as flat.
Yeah.
It might be the type of paracord.
And then the other only ones I've done is just on the Mora where you make the loop and lay the loop down and then just wrap it and pull the loop back through so it holds it in place.
Yeah. And then there's another knot I can show you too that's fairly easy to make. That would be used for like securing like a key to another key ring type of thing.
Yeah, this Mora right here, you can tuck that and you can't see it on either end. Like it looks really clean when you hide the ends of it, you know.
So the two ways of that is where you're doing just a spiral weave and you're putting the cord in and it just tightens on itself.
And then there was one more I wanted to ask you about if you knew what this one was. And this is a handle that I wrapped the fixed blade, whatever it is. Dang it. You know what knife this is, but it's the Benchmade fixed blade. Anyway, it doesn't have a wrap on it. And so I put one where all the knots are along this end. Do you know what that knot is? I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot here, but...
No. You're not. No, and so that's what I was going to say. That's the other standard weave for like bushcraft and stuff. But you would typically have... Where you have the knots on one side, it would be on both sides. But that's just crap. And it was just on the tip of my tongue, too. Not a bar lock.
But that worked out good because it gave me more grip on the...
Yeah.
Because all the knots lined up on this side. I don't know. I said, I just watched some YouTube videos and figured out which knot I wanted.
So that knot, like I say, typically it's double-sided. You'd have where you have the knot, there would be knots on the spine too. I want to say that one is called a bar lock knot, but I'm not sure. But if you were to take and like get the knife out of there, like take the metal out of the knot and pull the knot tight, that's a cobra knot.
Oh, okay.
It just how it lays. How it lays flat and the length of the loops, you don't see it.
Yeah.
But if you were to take that knife, if you were to take and like slide the knife out of there and cinch up the knot,
I got you, and tighten up all those, they would line up the same.
It's just a cobra knot or a snake knot.
But I think that's one of the ones where you had to go one way, one direction, and then back the other way the next time.
Yeah, so you make your loop, and then you wrap your tails in and pull them through.
Yeah, because it made it go back and forth and back and forth.
But talking about different color cord, this is what's called a double helix. And you can see it's spiral.
Okay. Yeah, that's super cool.
And that, if you do a single helix or a double, you don't spiral it. It spirals on its own because of the knot, the way the knot is. So super easy to do. And the one you just showed, that box knot, I can't remember what the name of those are, but I do those, and there's another one that you can do that comes out diagonal. I don't remember what the names of them are.
But I suggest if any of y'all want to like check out knots, there's tons of YouTube channels with all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, there's, like I say, Weavers of Eternity, Paracord Planet. There's tons of people that do paracord lanyard tutorials and bracelets and keychains and stuff. I'm not the only one that does it. I just, because of OCD, I have to make sure everything is precise. So I have little tricks and stuff I do to make it so everything's uniform, everything's tight. I'm obsessive about stuff.
Yeah, I tried to do that with mine too. As you can tell, I tried to pull them tight. Like,
It,
I still think this one is a different knot. For some reason because of how round it is. And there's so many different knots there could be. I don't know, but
yeah, it depends.
I just don't think this one is the same as this one because you can even see the coloring in the paracord doesn't help you see the knot much, but it doesn't really have the same stripe pattern all the way down. I don't think.
Yeah, it depends. It depends if the white one, if it's done around a core, or if it depends on the type of paracord too. Because some paracord just naturally lays flat because of how the core is, and
Oh,
instead of coming out flat in the knot, it'll come out rounded.
yeah. Now that I hold them right next to each other, they do look kind of the same. I think the colors were throwing me off, but they line up. The over and unders kind of line up the same. So I guess it is. It's just the way I shaped this one was more rounded than this one, and this one's pretty round too, but it's just a
And
little flat.
if you look at, and this, like I say, like that's why mine come out so different. You look at your white one, your gaps in your knot, and how your weave is offset. If you were to uh, like the way that I cinched the knots together, if you were to do that, you would see. And if you had if it wasn't white, you'd see it better. I can see it because I'm used to it. But if you had a gray or blue or something like that, you would see how your knots aren't they're not uniform. So when you're doing that knot, and you know, like I say, everybody, there's millions of people that do this stuff, probably better than me. I don't know, but just because of OCD, I want things to be as perfect as they can be. So my technique for doing stuff's a little bit different than everybody else. But when you're making that knot, if one side is off, when you cinch that down, it's going to be off on the knot. So I always, where I'm pretty uniform or close to it, when I cinch it down, I'm cinching it down uniform. And my knot, before it's locked down, it's already seated on the knot before it.
Yeah, and you
So
want the
it can't
right
help
you want the right side and the left side to kind of line up against each other too.
you. Yeah, you want it to be even, because when you get done, it it the whole reason behind all of these different types of knots was from sailors, and they don't want their knots to come loose. They want them to be tight. They want them to be strong. So their way of doing things was to make it as uniform as possible, because that's how they knew that the locks were going to lock together.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at my white one here, if you look down the middle, the line kind of goes straight down the middle. They don't like twist. It doesn't twist. You know, it doesn't look like this. I tried to tighten them up as best I could. I don't know if you can see, but
Yeah, I can see where your weave, you know, like right there, you got gaps in the weave.
like right here, there's a little off shape or something.
Yeah,
Or
and
there's
if
some
you go
kind of
where your
piece right there.
where your thumb is towards the loop, you got it. I mean, that's just practice. But
And this is some thick. I think this is thicker. Yeah, this is definitely thicker than regular paracord. This is
Yeah.
some other.
so the white,
Um,
depending on where you got it, it's probably just a standard, like Home Depot, something like that, or it could be nine strand.
oh, this is that nylon. This is nylon rope that came in a whole different packaging. This isn't even paracord.
So that if you're using anything that's nylon, that's harder to do because nylon's so slippery. When you go to do your knot to lock your knots together, you really got to jerk them down. You really got to make them super tight. Otherwise, as you're doing it, they're just going to slip.
Yeah, now that I remember, this was a pack of like nylon rope that I had out in the garage that I used. No wonder. Okay. Anyway, what other tips do you think you can give us that'll help us?
Well, if they want, I'll do this knot again a couple of times so you guys can see. Unless you just want to rewind the video, it's going to be the same process. Really, tips. The only other things I really wanted to go over, besides a couple of the basic knots, was your bead selection and how the bead is going to go onto the paracord. there's so many different types of holes, like hole sizes. Most beads are going to have a standard 4 millimeter to 6 millimeter hole, which 2 pieces of cord will fit through no problem. But what I do is I always, when I, like this is the length of cord I picked to do this one. So what I'll do is I'll singe that and I'll twirl it in my fingers. So that's a little pointed. So even the smaller runner beads, I can still fit in there. Super easy.
And that's something else I hadn't thought about, but is it pretty self-explanatory how the beads will fit on there? The holes just go straight down the middle most of the time. There's not like weird holes like through the skulls. You come out the eyeball holes and stuff. And
yeah, that's what I was going to get at. So there's a couple of beads that I can show that perfectly on. And one in particular that you'll see, if I can remember what knife I put it on. But there's all of the different types of beads. You're always going to run into where it's the same as, the hole on the knife. There's going to be so many different sizes, so many different shapes. What's the other one I was thinking of?
But they usually have a main shaft down the middle that kind of leads you to kind of know which way to put it on.
Yeah, most of the time you'll be able to look at it and see how it goes. It's pretty self-explanatory most of the time.
Yeah.
So like the hooded one, the
Grim Reaper looking. Yeah.
This one's only tricky because the holes are small. But what you'll do, like I say, you'll take and
make points on the ends. Yeah.
Yeah, the end of your cord. The 2 things you can do is I'll just, get my fingers wet and try to spin it when it's burnt.
So you're smart enough to get them wet. I just burn myself.
Yeah, look at even licking your fingers, you're still going to burn yourself. But
guys are stupid. Right now, why we die younger? There's a real reason why we die younger.
Listen, we drank from the garden hose, brother. We ain't going nowhere.
Right.
But you see, even with it pointed like that, like it goes through, but you have to get it into the jacket.
Oh.
So what I do is I'll use a little awl to pull it in there.
And is that wide enough for 2 pieces to go down through there?
Yeah. So what it'll do, I'll get the one out, then I'll put the other one in the other hole.
And you'll pull the other one to help pull the other one through? Yep.
And I'll just, I'll guide it in there, and once it's in, it's in.
Yeah, that's cool.
The difference of that is, like I say, if you don't get it, and this is a really good trick right here for smaller holes, is if you can't get the thickness down to a point, you're going to cut your end off, pull a little bit of the core out, and just get rid of that core, and then pull that outer sleeve back down. So now that core, you guys won't be able to feel it, obviously, but that core ends right there.
Yeah, it's a lot thinner. PJ Crazy, he just said, that's why Ed said earlier that no beads are worth more than $10 or $15, because PJ Crazy said he just looked up titanium beads, and some of them are like $140 and $150 and stuff. Crazy prices.
If it's premium materials, I understand a little bit of a price hike, but titanium, gold, silver, stuff like that, it's jewelry. You're going to spend. But titanium, you could probably go to 7-Eleven to get titanium these days. Jesus, it's everywhere.
Yeah, everything's coated with titanium. Yeah.
And I used to be a professional artist. My daughter is a professional artist now. I don't take anything away from your skill and your knowledge and all of that. the problem is, at the end of the day, you're buying a product. And you could probably find that same exact. I could say this was titanium and it cost $100. I get on AliExpress, I buy the same exact thing for, $10. I don't give a shit if it's titanium.
Yeah.
What does this hanging on my knife being titanium versus pewter versus,
Yeah,
420
exactly.
steel? It doesn't mean anything.
And
It's
people
just
think that somebody's going to look over at it and be able to tell, oh, I spent so much money on this titanium, when it just looks like
Nope.
a shiny bead, regardless of what it's made out of.
Listen, I don't care. You could be a millionaire and hang out with millionaires. They're not going to give a crap if you spent $150 on a good screw versus $12 for one of these.
Yeah.
They're not going to care. All they're going to care about is, hey, can you screw a screw?
Yeah, or do you still have 10 grand to invest with us? Like, they don't give a fuck.
This honestly, I use more as a fidget than I do as a bit driver.
Yeah. Drummer just asked if you could show one of your jigs.
The only jig I have is the monkey fist jig, which is honestly something you could make. I bought this one, but if you are mechanically inclined and you have a shop, you could make one in probably an hour. It's basically just
do you use dowel rods?
So this one's shouldered rod, which basically, after I got it and looked at it, I thought I should have made my own, because all they did was they took shoulder bolts and cut the heads off.
Yep.
The hard part's making the base and drilling and tapping, which I could do that in my sleep. I've been doing this shit for almost 40 years, for Christ's sake. I was kind of pissed off when I got it. I put the rubber feet on it, but I was kind of pissed off when I got it because I said, Jesus, it's just shoulder bolts with the heads cut off.
But you could have rearranged those bolts for different kind of jigs, couldn't you? Or add more bolts or whatever.
That would be the hardest thing to do, is to make sure that your patterns are correct. But it'll fit any ball that you can put in there, every position, it'll fit like freaking any size you could put in there. Oh,
the monkey fist. Yeah, that's that thing with the ball where it looks like a weapon almost, right?
Yeah, I was going to pull them out and I totally forgot. But I have a couple in my... This is where my Velcro went.
I forgot they even had ball bearings in them. I wasn't putting it together.
Well, if they're not in this box... Oh, there's one. And that was made with that jig. You can do it by hand. It's just really hard. The jig helps because you can run the cord around the ball and still keep it to where you're not... Because I would miss loops all the time. But like I say, this is old and dirty, but these are the two of those box knots. This is the spiral one. And it just depends on how you run the loops.
Yeah, I like those box knots and those spiral ones.
Yeah, those are easy. And if you can do the square one, the spiral one is just as easy. You're just changing the direction of where you put the strands when you're weaving it. Oh, and here's the other one I was going to show. This one's really easy, and you can have two loops on it, so you could have like keys on one side and a whistle or something on the other. You can't find the other monkey fist. Basically the same thing, but it had like a... But
you could just take a board and space some holes and drill it for like some dowel rods and stick some dowel rods up and make one that would fit like a certain size ball bearing. Yeah.
Yeah. Every jig, like bracelets and everything. If you see jigs, they're basically just, you could take a piece of 2x4 and drill holes in it and make your own jig.
Yeah.
The only thing that's good about jigs is if you were making, let's say you were making 10 bracelets and you wanted them all to be the same length, it just helps you maintain your length. Otherwise, I do them all by hand. I know how long I'm making them, and I know, I've been doing it for I don't even know
Yeah,
how many years.
yeah. That was one of the hardest parts with me when making these bracelets was knowing how much paracord to use. Like there was ways to measure it, and people would show you in the videos sometimes, like how to measure uh, for different things because of how much space the knots take up. Like I don't know, it's weird.
So that bead with the two smaller holes and having the cord have a pointy end on it is good for that. This one, the holes are a lot more smaller. So pulling that core out, I'll make this flat. Then I'll take the scissors and put a point in it. And then I'll singe that. And that's how I get it to be pointy enough to go into that hole. The only problem with this snake bead, which I can't remember what knife I put it on. I wish I could remember because that one's gold. You'd be able to see it better. But once you get that in there, it's fine to go in there. But I don't know if you guys can see that. He's got teeth and a tongue.
Yeah.
So I have to use a dental tool.
Like a pick?
A pick, yeah. You could
One of the
probably use
straightened out pick,
a
yeah.
sewing needle, needle, something like that. But I would have to take the pick and go in between the tongue and the teeth to get that cord into the position where it's at to pull out. Now that's bothering me. I can't think of what knife I put that on. Can't remember. But then there's other styles of beads where it's two that go together. So like the saber tooth and the skull, they both have just standard holes in them. And when they're on the cord, they sit together.
Yeah.
And there's all different kinds of beads like that. I've got one on the Arius that's the Mad Hatter, the Cat in the Hat from Alice in Wonderland. But that's these two beads. That's what this is.
Oh, okay, that's that one you put two together.
Yep. And you basically you make your knot, and you slide the saber tooth through. Then you'll slide the skull through, and when they're on there, they sit together.
Yeah, that's cool.
The other one, like I say, is that's the Cat in the Hat or the Cheshire Cat or whatever the hell his name is. But that's the hat is separate from the cat.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Huh, yeah, that one looks good together.
You can see it, the hat spins.
Yeah, and the ears even line up with the hat good, like.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like if you hold it, if you're not as tight enough, those lock together. Like you can't spin it if you're pushing it together.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sure after you buy so many beads, you start finding combinations of stuff.
At this point, they all kind of blend together. I see a bead, and I see a bead. This one's one of my favorite. I probably got about 10 of these. It's basically a predator with a skull in it.
Uh-huh. It's got a skull inside it?
Yeah. It's like I say
yeah.
with the phone. I don't see how good the phone is focusing, but
Yeah, I can see the skull's darker. Yeah.
and there's
What?
there's a couple of other things you can do. Certain beads will have like the hooded one. There's a couple of other beads where what you could do is take glow in the dark paracord and take the core out and slide the core into that piece. So beads like that glow in the dark cord would show up in there. You'd see it. like this bead, you can see the cord through the eyes and the mouth.
Oh, so it makes his mouth look like it's glowing?
So yeah, you could take glow in the dark paracord and use that outside sleeve and put it in there. And that's what a FID. Where the hell did I put my knotters tool? Oh, let me move this crap out of the way. I buried everything. But the FID, what's inside that knotters tool, that's what you would use to thread that through, because it's kind of like a sewing needle.
Yeah, I've got a leather kit somewhere. It's got a bunch of crazy little hook things.
Yeah, so the FID, what's good about the FID is when you have the cord in it, it's not like outside of it, it's inside of it. So you can slide that. So if the cord is threaded in there, you thread it in there and it locks it in. So when you're pulling it through, it don't come out. So you can pull that through.
Yeah, that's how those people make those crazy pattern ones.
Yep, that's how you do the micro cord and all that.
Just real quick, I wanted to show this. You can grab this on Amazon if you're ever need to sew up something leathery. Like I had a cover for my steering wheel that I needed to fix, and it was just a cheap little leather with some I don't know what these strings are made out of, but it's that coated, like dental floss coated kind of strings for leather. But they came with a bunch of these hooks that you can use to go through stuff. And also when you're using some of those, they come with little like rubber thimble things. It's kind of weird when you're pushing, but leather making is something else I wanted to try to get into eventually, because I thought that'd be super cool to be able to make leather stuff. But they make little finger covers with leather, made out of leather, for leather working. Like, it's pretty wild. But I think this comes with one of those like little punches. Like I haven't even gotten in there, but it's got a few of those cool little tools. But it was super cheap, like $8 on Amazon. And it's got some of those tools. Paracord, do they have the ones where like knitting needles where you can hook the paracord in there and then pull it through? Kind of like those things on Swiss Army knives. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, what's on the Swiss Army knife? That's a sewing needle for kids.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that that's to pull thread through and sew with.
Yeah. It's to fix like tarps and tents and stuff like that.
I didn't know if they made something big like that for paracord that you could pull through, but I guess there's no those little tips. What did you call those things you put on the end of it?
Oh, FID, F-I-D.
Oh, F-I-D. Yeah, those are super cool. I got to get some of those.
But there's a website called Jig Pro Shop. They'll have every kind of jig you want. They have tons of knotters tools, and the FIDs come with the knotter tool.
Okay. What's it called again? Hold on.
Go ahead.
It's called Jig. It's called what?
Jig, J-I-G.
Yeah.
Pro Shop.
Jig Pro Shop. All right, I'm gonna throw that in the link in there somewhere where I can remember it. Well, getting close to finishing up, I guess. Is there anything else you want to go over?
No, not unless somebody
has a question,
has questions, or wants to see a particular type of knot or whatever. I'm.
Marlin Spike. What is that? What's he talking about?
Oh, Marline Spike. That's what the sailors use. That's basically this part of it. It's a roping tool. It's designed to cinch knots and to loosen up knots and things like that and unlock knots.
Okay. Yeah.
This is just a fancier way of doing it.
That almost looks like one of those punch, like a set punch, like a.
Yeah, you could use a drift punch. It's the same thing. Center punch, drift punch.
Yeah, center punch. I was trying to think. I couldn't think of the term with the spring in it.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But this is one that has the two holes in it, the little rhinoceros.
Yeah, that's super cool. Uh, yeah, and I like how you said, you know, you can add a lanyard to anything, even with just a clip. Like, do you make the
That's the
hole in
thing.
the end of the ones that go on clips not big enough to where they can slide off? If you just pull that one you just had in your hand, if you were just to leave the knot like it's laying, you're not able to slide that up and it won't come off the clip, right? No, I mean like lay it back on there. And then just take the top part of the lanyard and pull it up towards the top of the clip. Let it slide underneath. It'll hit.
I'm not sure I understand.
Take the part that's going under the clip and slide it towards the top of the clip. No, not like that. Like leave the rest laying flat. Just slide it up under there. I think that it's small enough. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Look at my camera. I was wondering if you made the loops big enough to where when you have it, so like if it's in the clip like this, and you got hold on, down here in the corner. So you got this under there. If it just slides up like this, it's not big enough to come over the end of it this way.
Oh, it never happens. That never happens.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I understand completely. So you most of the time, I mean, for me, all the time because I'm used to it. Anything wherever the lanyard is, your only concern is if it's in a position where it interferes with the opening and closing of the blade. Standard lanyard holes where they're positioned, that's almost impossible. You'd have to be holding your hand upside down. And even then, you see where it lands. It can't really physically wrap under there. The ones that are on the clip, when you're holding the knife, it doesn't have anywhere to go. You know, when I'm going to close it, where my fingers are on the side of it, so it can't really wrap around. And by design, I usually try to make the ones that go on the clip, the loop not long enough to really do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I have to make it do that. It won't do it on its own because it's either in my pocket where it's not going to do that, or my hand is around it where it's not going to do that. It can't. Like my hand is holding it. My fingers, when I'm closing the knife, my fingers are holding it.
Later, Fuchs.
The only time it's not.
Sorry, I was telling Fuchs bye.
Good night, Fook.
Yeah, and there was a few knives that were made that people talked about where the lanyard hole was. It was right in the way to cut a lanyard, right? Like, and you even had one that you showed. I think it was a Tucson, maybe.
There's a couple of designers, Strider in particular, that always put the lanyard hole in the wrong spot. So this one, I can tell you exactly which one. So and this one I did a little trick too also, but so Strider typically puts their hole here. And what's that going to do?
Yeah, it was Eafengro. That's the Eafengro, right?
So this is the Eafengro?
Yeah.
But Strider does the same thing. I don't know if they still do, but for years, and what does it do? It puts it right in the blade path.
Wow.
So you can't.
That's terrible.
So what I did was I took the other body screw out because I don't need them all. I chamfered the hole, and I just put it in the hole.
Yeah.
This
and
one
you couldn't even put a screw. You couldn't even put a screw through that lanyard hole. It would hit the blade, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you can't do anything because it absolutely 100%. That blade tip is right there.
Yeah, that's wild.
But this one, it actually has a lanyard spot where it can't get in there.
Okay, and that's an actual Strider clone, right?
this is the
the
Monkey Edge.
SNG or SNG. Or
Yeah, that's the Monkey Edge one from AliExpress.
Yeah, I was wanting to get
And
that
then
one.
knives that you do it on the backspacer, all you have to do is make sure that knot is tight enough where the cord...
There's not enough slack. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't. Yeah. So that one, and how I know is I'll put the paracord in there and I'll do this.
And see if you feel a soft cushion or you hear the...
If it doesn't hit it, I know there's enough space where it won't cut it.
Yeah, I'm glad you showed that too, because I wasn't thinking about how to attach them around backspacers on knives either.
Yeah, so backspacers are, and that's where I got the idea, was basically from lanyard pins. Because I figured, well, the lanyard pin, it's in the back, backspacer's in the back, it's got to work.
Right. Yeah, I have a couple. When I was reassembling a few, I had some little pins that I didn't know where they went, and I figured out eventually they were in the lanyard slot, whatever.
The only time you'll ever really run into the problem is with lanyard options where they're really tight. Like it's made for a lanyard, but you can't get the cord in there. There's tricks to do it. Like on the Devo nip, you can't just take the cord and just slide it in there.
You got to hook it up around. Yeah.
Well, you either have to take the backspacer out and put it in and put it back, or you have to take the cord, pull the core out, flatten it, and curl it. So when you stuff it in there, you can curl it around.
Yeah.
That's what I did with this one. But that's, it's so tight, it's hard to, even with the pick, to like grab it and drag it through.
So you refuse to run across a knife that you can't put a lanyard in?
I can put a lanyard in anything.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. If I have to drill a hole, I'll drill a hole.
Yeah, that's something else that, like, I don't know, like you look at and see on knives that I don't even hardly notice, maybe sometimes because I don't ever use them, but that's just funny. It's just crazy how different the knife world is and how, like, diverse, like, people's interests are. Like, some people like, all kinds of different knives that I hate, and then they hate the knives that I like, and I notice stuff on knives that other people don't notice, and you notice whether it'll take a lanyard or how you're going to get one to go on there.
Well, my biggest thing is if I'm going to carry it, it's going to have a clip. I don't do pocket droppers because I already got stuff in my pockets. I carry my electrical panel key in my pocket. I've got my keys in my other pocket. I am running out of pockets. It's got to have a clip on it.
Yeah.
If it has a clip, it's got a spot for a lanyard. There's even a company, and I don't remember who it is. There's a maker that makes his clips with a hole. So like this.
Like the Spydercos, I think, do.
There's a hole there. The hole goes through the clip. So you can put the lanyard into that hole in the clip.
Oh, it goes through the solid part of the clip?
Yep. So instead of being like slid on there and in there, it would be in a hole here.
Yeah.
And the hole is lateral. That cord would go through there. And
I like those new two-piece Lynch clips with the screws on the end.
Oh, the modular one? Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about buying a few of those because they have them on AliExpress. They have the copy ones.
Yeah, I haven't seen them on there yet.
I've got them bookmarked. I added, let me see if, I guess we'll wrap up and I'll finish showing. There was a couple of knives people mentioned I wanted to go look up, and we'll finish up.
What you gotta do?
And we'll have you back on some other time and look at your collection again. But I appreciate you showing us all that stuff and answering all the stupid questions we had.
There's no such thing as a stupid question. I just hope I was entertaining enough, and I hope I at least gave some useful info to people.
Yeah, for sure. I learned a lot. I'm sure other people did too. All right, well, I'm gonna flip back to my camera, but I appreciate you.
Yeah, people can message me and ask me questions. I don't care.
All right,
I got nothing else to do with my time.
Do you have what's the best way to get a hold of you, on Instagram or on?
Instagram or on the Discord if they're on
Yeah, on the Discord here. Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, and we'll see you on another video, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm thankful for you to have me on. It's more than fun.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right, guys. Thank you for Ed for that for sure. There was a couple of knives up here somebody mentioned. Somebody asked me if I had seen something. Okay, yeah, there was a few mentioned. If you're still in here, let's see. B Shady's got his Parrot, Modest Mary Fixie again, and tie dyes. Trying to find that question, or somebody asked me if I'd heard of something. Majestic Hands of Ed Durbin. Yes, sir, that was. Monkey's Fist. Look at Dark Bolt Arcus and the Keto. Well, we might as well look at those since he mentioned them before I find the other one that was actually asked. But he said there's a button actuated liner lock that you can still access the liner, kind of like that frame lock. Dark Bolt Arcus. Dark Bolt Arcus. Let's see. Dark Bolt Arcus. Let's check out that liner lock. It's a button. All right. Yep. Button liner lock. And you can still get to the liner. Maybe we'll see that in one of these pictures. Not really. Oh, here we go. Yep, you can see it in the video. All right, cool. So you can use the button or the liner. That's a cool looking knife. I like that knife quite a bit. It's a good price on it too. 20 CV. 3.2 inch blade. Yep, I'm going to bookmark that one. And then next was the Keto Ventier. Keto VENTR. Yep, don't even have to see the video on that one. We can see the picture right out the gate. And that's got nested liners, so that's cool. I like where the button is on that one too. And that's a real good price on that one. Have to bookmark that one too. I like that black version. I wish I would have bought that now rather than the SRM that I bought. It was around the same price. That one has got the lanyard hole covered. I believe your pinky would almost go in that hole. That's pretty wild. That's a big hole. That's like one of those ear gauges that the guys wear nowadays. All right. Thank you for that, Fred the Lug. He's already left, but... and then the next one that he mentioned, MechForce Kilby Knives. MechForce Kilby. Okay, the Shard Integral. This is a Kilby collab. Copper foil, I mean, you know, some people would love it. I'm glad they gave me a good picture of the back of the knife, though. I like the way that looks. I'm wondering if they had... I guess that's probably the only version. No, they have other ones. Good. Fat Carbon, Black Dune, Frost. Frost one looks better to me. I like how they didn't do it like a real two-tone pattern at least. At least they carried it across the whole side of the knife. Yeah, that's a cool knife. I'll bookmark that one. Looks like they have just a black. That one's out of stock, of course. That would probably be more along my lines. If I had to get carbon fiber, I would probably get that version. Let's see. I don't think anybody else. What's going on, Sever 7? And I already said keep it scale, stupid. Sever 7, what clones do I have for sale? I don't know yet. I did just get all 4 of the new Lemifshi rosy versions, and they're super nice. I love the thickness and the weight on them. These are both Lemifshis. One has the golf putter milling, and one has the lines. I will probably sell the dark golf putter of this one. Let's see, because I don't need them both. It's the dark version of the golf putter. I think I'll probably sell that one. And then as far as the other ones go, oh yeah, I have the light and the dark version of the XL. I've got a ton of Spyderco clones. If you want any Spyderco clones, I got you covered. But I'll probably get rid of the dark one of those too, the XL. But I've got probably 50 Benchmade clones and 50 Spyderco clones that I would get rid of. Now that I've got pretty much all the Spydercos that I want, originals, except for like I don't have an original Drunken or an original Slice Bowie or Bowie, sorry. David Bowie. Astrum Premium. I've got the Astrum whatever VG10 version. I don't have the I don't have any extra Lamias. I've just got one from each batch, one from the first batch and one from the second batch. Ron Dobbins, yes, you asked me about that. I do have one, but it's not the integral. It's the, hold on, let me go grab it. Benchmade Anthem. Let me go grab my Benchmade bag. Hold on just a second. Sorry, I still haven't finished sorting everything in the kitchen. I don't know that I have an Anthem. Now that I think about it, I might. It might be a McHenry 710 that I was thinking about. Yeah, I've got the 3-inch McNees that I want to get rid of. If you want either version of the 3-inch McNees, I've probably got you covered. Let's see here. All right. Isn't that the Anthem? Yeah, because that's the 710. So I believe that's the Anthem right there, isn't it? Feels super light. I believe that's the Anthem. I haven't carried this knife a single time. Got it out of the box, put it in a bag. Don't look at it. See if it's even tight. Yeah, it's tight. It's got great action for being never used and as tight as it feels. I think that's the Anthem. What does it say? 20 CV. And this feels like aluminum. So it's not the, it's the fake. That's what I was saying. It wasn't the, it's not the integral. It's the 2-piece with the one line, 2-piece and a biscuit. It's got, it doesn't have, it's, this is all one piece, the big part. Yeah. Anyway, that's how they did that one. Yeah, you can buy this one if you want it. I'll sell it. I love my Osbornes though, but I've got a real one now. See what else is in here. Sever 7, probably so. I would have to think about that. Is it an M390 or is it a cheaper one? This water Akira knife is pretty cool, or whatever it's called. There was a few Benchmades that I wanted to check out that turned out being knives that I would probably own if they didn't rip people off with their prices. Just my opinion. This is probably one of them. Of course, the other ones are the Griptilian. And I mean, I don't know. I like the mini grip. This one right here is probably my favorite knife that they make, the titanium Mini Freak. It feels great. If you've not felt one of these, and this is one of the, I thought you meant ones that had holes in the clips like this, but you could attach a lanyard through one of those holes. Spyderco has quite a few holes. And then this little weird, that's based off the modded short version of that's like a bug out mini or something that somebody made a short version of. This is a cool little titanium knife too. I probably wouldn't sell it. I probably wouldn't sell those two. And I might keep that one just because, but pretty much the rest of these. Why do I think Benchmade charges so much for their knives? I think they charge so much for their knives because they developed a big enough fan base early enough in and got people on that fear of missing out trend, and we're just able to keep producing. I don't know, keep getting the same prices. I couldn't tell you why they charge that much. I know they've heard feedback from so many people. So I don't know the real answer to that. But I would say because it's part of their business strategy and they think they can get away with it. And so far they've been able to and maintain business. But just like Ed said with me earlier before we started talking, he said that if if the people that made the Rosie were able to get it down to where they could sell it for $350, $400, they would be multimillionaires by now. But instead, they charge $800 and $900 and have to keep making new knives and make it, I don't know. Price point matters a lot to a lot of people. And help with gadgets. You have a great day, sir. Sever 7, I can't do all that thinking about what you asked, like while I'm doing the stream. So just make sure to hit me up afterwards, and we'll talk about it. We've been going 2 hours and 10 minutes. Luckily, Ed was an hour and a half of that, so I haven't had to do much talking today, but unless there's anything else y'all really want to talk about, we'll start winding this one down. If you don't have a problem with buying those Lemifshi replicas, they're mostly all sold out now, except for I believe there's only one version left right now. I would suggest you pick one up. They're really nice. Yeah, Ron Dobbins, appreciate that with the thumbs up. But right now, I believe there's only the dark or the light colored well, I'll have to find it. So there's none of those versions available. It doesn't look like. Yeah, so right now, the only one available is the radial, which is a cool version. But right now, all the stores seem to be sold out of everything but the radial. I'm sure with how good he did on them that he will have some more soon enough. Let me show you the breakdown picture and show you the double detent balls here. It is 154 cm, which is awesome. But there's a picture of the double detent balls, and his seem to be lined up right, and the detent's great on them. Milling's great on them. Weight, thickness, not much wrong with it. Great little knife, especially for $82 with 154 cm steel, hardened to us. Looks like he showed a 61.7 there, so who knows? But there's the blanks that comes out of the actual before they sharpen them up, just to kind of show that it. And they're learning how to buy, sheets. I've seen receipts for some sheets of good steel, whether it's from Austria with the M390 or this 154 cm. So they're learning they can order sheets of it just like anybody else can, and put out a knife, that's worth having. So that's cool with me. And he shows the weight on all of them. I don't know what that weight is in because that's not the weight I got. And that symbol up there on that symbol on those scales look weird to me. It's probably grams. Yeah, I measured in ounces. That's right. So it probably is grams. Duh. Wasn't even thinking. Nobody else had any other questions though or comments. Make sure to tell Ed thanks if you see him, or message him and ask him some questions. I'm sure he's just like me and loves answering stuff and trying to help people when he can. So I sure appreciate him popping in. Tomorrow is Sunday. I should have a recap. I've started pulling knives that I want to sell, and maybe I'm going to have a last video where I'm finally cleaning up all the mess in the kitchen area. I'm going to bag up all my boxes in separate bags for each big manufacturer, and then have a section for my nice stuff where I keep them separate, so when I want to sell them, I can find the stuff. Sever 7, Ron Dobbins, drummer, of course Ed. Ed, I really appreciate you bringing those new people in today too. Maybe they'll come back. Yeah, there was quite a few people that popped in here today. I'm pretty sure just because of Ed being famous. Fred the Lug and help with gadgets. Appreciate y'all being here. Come back and join us for early morning knife talk all the time. Doc Seuss, B Shady, Fuchs, Pete, all the normals, drummers. If you haven't joined the Discord, please do so. I'd like to grow the Discord to where we can all have a place to sell knives and have a bigger crowd to look at them. And Sever 7 was just asking about what I had for sale, and if it was any bigger, I would start posting. I mean, we have a whole section in the Discord right here. We have a whole section on the Discord that says buy, sell, and trade. And there's nothing in there right now, but I would love to post some stuff in there and have enough people. We've got 19, it looks like, in the Discord now. So if people would learn to check that every now and then, and we can start posting some stuff and have a little side community, but it'll grow. I'm not worried about it. I'm happy with the growth we've had, so that's super cool. Famous Anus. Yep. Good old chocolate chip cookies. All right, guys. Y'all have a great rest of your Saturday. If you're in an area like me, stay out of the wind. And if you got to go to an interior hallway, do so. I sound so stupid. I sound like somebody on the news. No, just be safe. Ron Dobbins, I will be on every day, sir. I haven't quit yet. This is day 58 in a row. I don't plan on stopping. I will be here for sure. The only time I won't be here, and y'all will know something's up, is if I'm in the hospital or something. Y'all will hear from me if I'm going to be late or whatever. Keep it scale, stupid. Thanks for being here, buddy. But yes, we will be on every day. I can't wait till we do 365. Yeah, same bat time, same bat channel. But yeah, when I hit 365 days in a row, that's going to be an awesome feeling. So, wouldn't be anything without y'all.